Hello guys, so welcome to my first Hacking with Python class, which we are going to talk about injection attacks. So who is this course for? What are we going to do? So this course is for someone that already knows Python and wants to learn hacking, but doesn't not have much knowledge about hacking, zero to basic knowledge, and also someone that is good at self-teaching stuff, which you probably already are if you found this video and you clicked it and you decided to watch it. Um, so what are your requirements? You will need Python installed already, text editor like Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text, Nano, Beam, whatever you want to use. And I recommend having a Linux environment. It's really important for hacking to know how to use Linux, not only because most of the hacking tools are for Linux, code for Linux, and yeah, also because if you get to hack a server, which we are going to do in this series of tutorials eventually, you're going to land in a Linux server eventually, and well, what are you going to do there if you don't know how to use Linux? You will have to navigate the files. You are going to have to do privilege escalation. But if you don't know how to use Linux, then you're not going to be able to do any of that. So yeah, it's very important that you start getting used to Linux if you haven't already. So when I'm going to tell a little anecdote. So I started coding when I was about 14 or 15. I actually was very interested in hacking, but I didn't know anything. I look at tutorials and I probably came across like Kali Linux tutorials and stuff like that, but I didn't understand anything because I didn't know anything about computers. So what I thought is, okay, first I have to learn to code, because I heard about coding before, and after I learn to code, I will probably understand this hacking stuff. And that's how I started in computers. So after a few years passed, and I remember that the initial reason why I wanted to learn programming was because I wanted to learn hacking. I wanted to jump from programming to hacking, but I didn't know how, because I only knew Python and some other stuff like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the normal stuff, some C also, but not a lot. So I looked around for hacking with Python resources. I came across a book called Black Hat Python, which I like, but I have some criticisms towards, which maybe we'll talk about it later. The thing is that I didn't know how to turn my programming skills into cybersecurity skills, and that's what this course is for. So at that time, I didn't even know how hacking was like. I didn't know what a hacker did. I mean, I knew some cybersecurity things like phishing and stuff like that, or I knew how to code a small virus, stuff like that. But I didn't actually know the process of hacking. So I'm going to tell you, now that I work in cybersecurity and I have some years of experience doing this, what's hacking like, and specifically hacking websites, because that's my main field of expertise. So basically, when you're hacking a website, the loop of doing that is you look through the website, you try to find an error, and then if you find one, you assess if that error is affecting any of the following three: confidentiality, integrity, or availability. What does confidentiality mean? That basically means if you are able to read stuff that you're not able to read, for example, information from another user or files in the server or things like that, things that are secrets or you're not supposed to know, that affects confidentiality. What does integrity means? If you're able to change things that you're not supposed to change, for example, if you're able to change the email from another user, that's a very big problem because then you could get into that user's account. Or if you're able to change text in the site that you're not supposed to, like, I don't know, someone else's post or whatever, that affects integrity. That's a problem. Users are not supposed to change things that they are not supposed to change. And availability, well, that means being able to access the website. And what would get into this category? Well, DOS conditions, like being able to take down the website very easily, for example. That means availability. So if you're able to find a problem that affects any of these three, that's a vulnerability, and then you can report it. And if you're lucky, and if you're very, very lucky, you will get paid. But do not get excited. Unless you're doing it in a bug bounty program, you're probably not going to get paid. I have made the dumb mistake of hunting in places that do not have a bug bounty program and reporting and not getting paid for my work. So yeah, that happens. And well, after you report, then you repeat, and yeah, that's how you hack a website. But how do you know how to look for errors or bugs or vulnerabilities? Because it's very easy to say that, but it's not as easy to do it. So how do you actually get to know those errors? Well, there are resources for that. For example, there is the OWASP Top 10, which is 10 common types of vulnerabilities. It's a list that updates every, I don't know how many times, how much time, but it's important to check it out every once in a while. But the more important things, I believe, it's practicing, and you can get that legally in CTFs. There are platforms like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. I'm going to spell them out. Try Hack Me and hackthebox.com. So these are very important. This is where I actually learned hacking. So after I learned coding, the anecdote that I was telling you, the place that I actually learned hacking is by practicing daily in Try Hack Me and Hack the Box, doing CTFs and stuff like that. That really, really, really made me learn about hacking. The other thing that I recommend is reading bug reports. You can do this in bug bounty platforms, and you can see how other people has hacked companies. In fact, we are going to do that right now. We're going to my browser, and we are going to HackerOne. So you can go to HackerOne, and here you will find security reports for companies. I actually don't remember how to navigate this. No, it's not this. Yeah, I usually access from a GitHub repository that has a lot of types of reports for different vulnerabilities. I think it's this one. Not sure. No, it's not this one. But yeah, so yeah, you can go to look for types of vulnerabilities. Let's check SQL injections. Yeah, and let's click here. And you're going to be able to read how someone else hacks in this case, Starbucks. So here, false starts, that's the name of the hacker, describes how he found this vulnerability, which I'm not going to read here, but in fact, I think I have read this before. Yeah, this was a very interesting case of how this hacker found SQL injection through an XML field, which is very interesting because XML. Well, if I saw XML in a website, what I will try is an XXC, and if it didn't work, I would not have tried a SQL injection. I really don't think I will do that. So reading reports is really good once you already know basic hacking. This is how you see new techniques that other hackers have done. Of course, this is something that well, you have to do constantly because there is new ways to do it and new reports every day. Well, yeah, this is a practice that you can do. Also, I recommend you to keep consuming cybersecurity content. There are some good channels here on YouTube. I recommend, for example, IPSEC. You're going to watch him if you practicing Hack the Box. He has a lot of walkthroughs that are really, really good, well explained. Another famous one is John Hammond, which talks about different cybersecurity things very frequently. A really good one I recommend is Low Level Learning, recently rebranded as Low Level, which talks about also security topics, security news, and things like that. But you can search on your own. So the final thing that I would recommend on how to keep learning hacking is to go to Discord servers, but be very careful here because there are different types of hacking servers in Discord. There are the cringe ones, which are going to be Script Kiddie, Black Hat Discord servers, which I do not recommend you to go there. It's a waste of time. It's a toxic environment full of 12-year-olds that are internet tough guys that are going to say the most stupid shit, and then they are going to try to impress one another. I really don't recommend going there, but there are some good white hat places that you can go and look for in Discord, where you can actually talk to people. You can maybe ask questions if you are not annoying about it. Don't connect to the server and immediately ask, how can I learn to hack? Don't do that. It's better if you have a specific question. For example, if you are doing CTF and you are stuck with some problem, you can put the problem directly in, like, hello, I'm working in this problem, and you explain the problem. Don't say hello and then just wait until someone responds and then explain the problem or stuff like that. Basically, don't be annoying and be careful. I really don't recommend you to go to black hat places. They are not worth your time. And they are not as cool as they sound, believe me. It's really stupid people in there, mostly kids and not kids and not so young people, like adults that are also really stupid. I really don't recommend you go to black hat places. Not because it's dangerous, it's because it's stupid and they are stupid. Yeah, so let's continue. So what were I actually talking about? But how do I look for errors? Yeah, so once you know vulnerabilities, and I already described how to learn about hacking, once you know types of vulnerabilities, then the thing that you do in an actual website is you enumerate the functions that it has. For example, function is creating users or login into the website or post into the website, the functions, the features. So once you know what the features are, you get to know the website. What I would do is to capture those packets with a tool called Burp Suite, which we're going to learn about later on. So this is Burp Suite. It's a proxy. It allows you to capture all the HTTP traffic that goes through your browser, and then you can modify it. Because the way that you find bugs is through, well, most of the time, the way that you find a bug is through user input. User input is every type of data that you send to the server, and maybe if that data gets misinterpreted somehow, you are able to trick the server into doing something that you are not supposed to. So yeah, Burp Suite is really good for manipulating your user input because it allows you to see what you're sending to the server, and it allows you to change it. So it's really good tool. It's definitely my favorite hacking tool. That one and Netcat, I believe. But Netcat we are not going to talk about today. So yeah, try to break the feature. Well, I talk about these 2 points in the same. Yeah, so you enumerate and then you try to break it. You try to put, for example, quotation signs into the fields, the HTTP parameters. If you see a number, try changing that number, and maybe that number was an ID of a user, and now you're able to get the information from another user ID, stuff like that. Try to break the application. Try to think of something that the programmer or the developer did not think of. So yeah, that's basically how you look for vulnerabilities. So now that you kinda know what's hacking like, we're actually going to do a lab today, because the topic that I wanted to talk about, I mentioned the OWASP top 10, and one of the vulnerabilities in OWASP top 10 is injection. So what's an injection? Well, we are going to use this script as an example. You can find all the labs in my GitHub, which is right here. You can git clone this repository. It has the labs. This is just for class 1 as of now. So yeah, in lab 1 I have a calculator, which first we're going to run. Let me open my shell. Okay, so here I have the labs. You navigate to whatever folder where you have it, and I'm going to run Python lab1.py. So this is supposedly a calculator where you can put operations, right? Like math operations, like 2 by 2, and it says 4, right? 5 by 5, whatever, 25. Yeah, so what's wrong? I want you to pause the video and think what's wrong. Okay, so the problem here is that to do these math operations, it is using eval. And what does this function do? Basically, it takes a string and it turns it into Python. It executes it as a Python code. So that's why we can run 2 by 2, 2 divided by 2, and 2 plus 2, etc. That's because it is executing it as if it was in the Python interpreter. Like if you do 2 by 2, it executes it, right? So yeah. But what's the problem? Well, it's Python code, so you can put whatever in here. Instead of putting this, you are injecting a value that you're not supposed to put in there. So this is a really easy example, and honestly not a realistic example. We're later on going to do a SQL injection attack, but yeah. So what can we do with this? For example, we can try print hello world, and as you can see, it says hello world because this got executed. So what is this teaching us? Basically that there are some functions where it is very dangerous to put user input or to concatenate user input to. In fact, this is not a really good example of an injection, I believe, because it is not getting injected into anything. It is it is being sent directly to the eval function. But still, what I want you to learn is that there are functions or things where it's dangerous to send user input or to cross the user input into putting whatever they want to. It's important to never cross user inputs if you are building an application securely. So but printing hello world is not as bad, right? Like you cannot do a lot. What's the worst that you could do? So let's say that this application is not in my own host and I'm not running it directly. Let's say that maybe this is a network application. If you have ever worked with sockets in Python, maybe to build a chat or something like that, let's say that this was being connected to the network remotely. Or maybe that this is just a website and this is this is being taken as a parameter from an HTTP server. Let's pretend that. So if you are a hacker and you want to get to execute code, what can you do? Well, what I now that I know that I can execute whatever Python code that I want, what I would do, sorry, I'm using a different keyword today. What I would do is I would use import os dot system ls dash la. As you can see, the reason why you don't want to put whatever user input into whatever function is because they can find a way to execute system commands. In this case, I put this line which would import OS, and then from OS it will execute ls.la, which it's bad because if a user is able to execute system commands, then they basically have control over the computer. This is what I meant earlier when I say that you have to know Linux. If you are able to hack a website, you are most definitely going to have access through system commands, and you have to know them so you can execute code into the computer. If you are in Windows, instead of ls-la, you can just put dir, which means directory, and you can do basically the same. Yeah, so now let's continue and let's do some actual injection, because this is not exactly an injection. It's not being injected anywhere. It's just being fed to a dangerous function. So yeah, I have this small program right here which pretends to be like a place where a program where you can get information from, let's say, your workplace, and it first defines a database with SQLite. Here it creates this connection to a user's database file. Then it creates some tables. If you don't know SQL, we're going to do a very short lab before doing this. So create a new file called database.py, and let's copy paste. You remember you have this on my GitHub. Let's copy paste this here. Yeah, so we already copy pasted this, but now what? We're going to make the program so it can read from this database and just execute a SQL query, so we can learn some basic SQL commands. So this is SQLite, so it's a specific type of SQL language. I don't remember the syntax exactly. Let's check real quick. Cursor.execute. Where do you define cursor? Okay. And your cursor.execute, and okay. Yeah, so very simple program. So basically we have an infinite loop where we put a prompt to a query, and then we execute that query and we fetch all the results, and then we print the results. This is because we are going to practice some SQL commands for the people that don't know how to do that, and then we are going to learn some concepts that are necessary to learn about SQL injections. Yeah, so basically in SQL, you can select data from the database, from tables actually. So tables basically have different types of information. Like in this case, it has an ID, which is an integer. It has a name, which is text. It has a job, which is also text, and password, which is text. Inside of a table, there are both rows and columns. Columns are, you have to imagine it as if it was an Excel table, like Excel, like this program from Microsoft. Maybe my pronunciation is not exact. Um, you can imagine it like that. So you can actually, it's better if I find a picture online. Yeah, so basically, the columns are this, like customer ID is a column because you can see that it goes vertically. First name will be a column right here, last name will be a column, country will be a column. All of this is called a table, and these are the rows. So the rows are the different entries of information. Like in this case, it has the ID 1, first name Maria, last name Creamier, Cream, I don't know, country Germany, and so on and so on. So in our case, we have the table called users, which has a column ID, name, job, and password. And we can select, and it has the different rows. John Doe, who is a software engineer and has a password pass123. We also have examples for Jane, Alice, Bob, blah blah blah. So yeah. So how do you see the information in there? So you can use select. What were the name of the, yeah, select name from users, and you can see that it brings you the information. It is bringing me the names John, James, Alice, Bob. It is all the examples. But what if I want to see the name and the job? Select name, job from users, and as you can see now it brings me more information. John, software engineer, Jane, data scientist, so on. But what if I want to get just the information from one specific user? For example, select name, job from users where, and this is the important part, you can use where to narrow down the information that you're getting, because maybe I'm getting a lot of information, but I want to get information from one specific worker. So yeah, I will just put where, and then I can put a condition. In this case, ID equals 1. And as you can see, it just brings me the information of John. In SQL, it's different than in Python. Since you don't declare variables inside of the query, you can just put one equal. Actually, the correct syntax is just one equal for comparison. At the beginning, I didn't like this because I was used to double equal signs for comparison. But yeah, this is how it works in SQL. It's good to know. So there is also something called union queries, which means that you can select the information from here, but you can also append the information from another query. So let's do that. Select name, job from users where ID equal 1, union select let's say other field. Well, let's do the same query, but you can select other type of data. Name job from users where ID equal 2, for example. And as you can see, it executes the two queries, one after the other, and you can get more information that way. It in fact executed Jane first, I think. No. But what you can also do is to put information that doesn't have anything to do with the previous query. And let's do that in the next example. Select name job from users union select 1 2. So you can put data that doesn't have anything to do with the previous one. In this case, I'm just going to put 1 2, and you will see that it will just bring me 1 2. Oh, I didn't put the where here, so that's why it brings me the entire database. But you can see that it also bring 1 2. So what is this useful for? So what if I put select name job from, for example, users where ID equal 5, and I put ID equal 5 because there is not an ID 5, so it will not bring me anything here. And select password, comma. Also, when you are doing a union query, the number of columns that you are calling have to match. Password name from users. Oh, I had a syntax error. Where? Oh, I didn't put the, yeah. Okay, I see what's my error. Select name job from users where ID equal 5 union select name password. So my error in the previous one was instead of putting union, I put and. So yeah, very dumb type. Oh, what happened? Name is not. What? Oh yeah, I'm dumb again. So I put select name password, but I didn't put from where. So yeah, of course. Let's just copy paste this time. From users, and as you can see, it did not bring me the ID 5, of course, but it brought me the name of one of the users and the password and so on, because I didn't put a where instruction, so it bring me all of them. So why is this relevant? So a SQL injection basically means that a program is running SQL queries like the ones that we're running right now, but it is taking user input and concatenating it to one part of the program. So we're going to go. Let me close this and let me open it again. Yeah. So the thing here is that a SQL injection happens when a program like lab2.py it's in my GitHub repository. Again, you can go check it out. It, for example, asks you for a specific type of information. In this case, it asks you for the ID of a user. We're going to run it actually to exemplify it better. Python 3 lab2.py. It is just telling you enter the user ID and retrieve their name and job title, and you put 1, and it tells you John Doe, job, software engineer. So that's what this program does. It seems really easy, right? A lot of programs do this in the internet. They take some type of information, then they pass it to a query in a SQL in a database. They execute it, and then they bring you information from that query. But there are good and bad ways to do that. So basically, if a program is doing something called concatenation, that means just adding the text to the string without any safety measures, it will get executed as if it was code in the database, and there is no way for the database to know that you did not intended that. So there is way to fix that, and we are going to see it later, but I'm going to show you a concrete example. So this program basically uses your user ID input, enter a user ID, you can put whatever, just one or whatever. Then it executes get user by ID, and what this function does, it executes into the cursor, and this is the query: select name job from user where ID equal user ID. So this is a function this is the query that we were doing manually, but now it's inside of a program. This is not intended. So the program, let's pretend it is intended for regular users that just want to put the ID, and they don't know anything about SQL. They just want to get information from their workplace. So they put 2, and let's say it's for human resources, and they say, yeah, Jane, she's a data scientist in the company. Okay, so yeah, you put 2, and it goes here, and it executes the query, but the problem is right here. So this f string just adds the 2 to the string. And what's the problem with that? Well, if you remember our database or previous example, it just executes it like this. So this is a string, same as this is a string. So how does the database know that this is not set by you? It could be whatever. We could put any union query there to bring information that we're not supposed to, or we could do really whatever with the database now, because we are able to execute code inside of it. And I'm going to show this in an example, Python 3. So if I, Python 3 locked. So if I put 1, I get John Doe and name and job software engineer. But what if I put, for example, 5? It will not bring me anything. It will say user not found. But what if I put 5 union select 1, 2? As you can see, since it didn't find anything in 5, and I put select 1, 2, it will bring me 1, 2. Do you remember this from the examples? I think I deleted it, but yeah, basically it is just bringing this list, and it's getting one of the contents, and since it's got 1 and 2, then it is just printing it here. So this is already a vulnerability. How do we identify it? So let's go back. I think I went too fast. So what I would do if I was pen testing this application, what I normally do is I put a quote. And as you can see, that causes an error. This brings us back to our notes. This is not our notes. This brings us back to our notes. So we're hacking an application. I'm going to clear the screen. Where we get into an application, and we try to find errors. What can we do to try to find an error? It is asking us for an ID, right? But what if we give us something that is not an ID? Well, it is already giving us an error. But how do we use this error? Let's read it. Cursor executes select name job from users where ID equal user ID. Since I have some experience, I know that this is a vulnerability, because I can see that this is an F string that is being concatenated to the query. But if you see an error that says SQL, that's most likely vulnerable in whatever website. If you put whatever data and it says something related to SQL, you most likely find a SQL injection. So what now? Now that I know that there is a SQL injection, what I would do is, here I know what because I can read the source code, I know what the query is, but how would I identify the query? Because in a regular hacking exercise, you would know what's in there. In this case, it is throwing us an error that says select name. Okay, we know the query, and we know what table it is getting data from, and we know two of the column names. This happens sometimes also in websites. Sometimes when you put sometimes the errors are too verbose and you can see the entire query or parts of it, but it's not always. So we have to know how to enumerate a database without having more information than just the fact that a SQL injection exists. So for that, there is this list called Payload All the Things. It's a really good repository in GitHub. And well, there is this section called SQL injections and SQLite injections. So we're going to go back to SQL injections. The first thing that you would want to do is to identify what's the DBMS, the database manager system. So how do we do that? DBMS identification. So these are conditions that if you execute them in different types of that are only available in specific types of database manager systems. But if you put them in another database, it will cause an error. So we want to do that. For this, we will do first we're going to do something else. What I would do if I was first hacking this, I would try to do logic. So we know that just putting one executes as regular, but what if we put one or 1 equal 1? Well, it gives us the same, but what if we put 1 or 1 and 1 equal 2? So this, if you know programming, this is like an if condition. So this is if something equals 1, or which is going to be either true or false, because we don't know if the other thing is equal to 1, or true, because 1 is always going to be true, or true. And in Boolean logic, in the Boolean tables, or is if one of the two conditions is true, then it's going to be true, and we are putting or true, so this is always going to be true, and it's going to bring us one response. But if we put and 1 equals 2, if you remember the Boolean tables, we're going to look them up. Fruit tables, I believe they are called, not Boolean tables. I don't know. So in an AND operation, false and false equal false, false and true equal false, true and false equal false, true and true equal true. This means that only if two conditions are if the two conditions are true, then it's true. If one condition is true and the other one is false, and if both conditions are false, of course, it's false. In OR, only one of the conditions has to be true. False and false is false, false and true is true, true and false is true, true and true are true. SOR and the other operations, we're not going to check them out. They are I had connectivity issues. Yeah. So yeah. If we put 1 and 1 equal 2, this means that this is false. This query is false. And if this works, it should say no user found. If this is a SQL injection. Okay, no user found. So right now we have completely confirmed that there is a SQL injection, not only because we saw the SQL error, also because we can execute logic and it follows the logic that a SQL database would do it. So now we want to identify the DBMS. How do we do that? We try to execute this logic and see what causes an error and what doesn't. So first we're going to try to MySQL. It's actually one of the most common ones. So I would also try MySQL first, and I put 1 and I paste this condition. We can see that this causes an error. Let's pretend it doesn't say the query right here. and it doesn't say the DBMS right here. I mean, if this was a real hack, I would already know it's SQLite because it says right there. But let's continue. Okay, so next one, is it Oracle? Is it MS SQL? Well, we can try that. Copy paste one, or it causes an error. It means it is not MSS, whatever. Oracle. Copy paste. Oh, I'm dumb. Yeah. Well, we can do this until we find SQLite, but we're going to skip because it's more of the same. In fact, it's just one left before SQLite. So we're going to copy this as well. One, or okay, this also causes an error, so we know that it is not PostgreSQL. Let's try with SQLite version. Copy, we execute again, one, or, and as you can see, this time it didn't cause an error because SQLite version is a function that exists in SQLite. So that means that we are in SQLite. Now we know that it is vulnerable to a SQL injection, and we know that the database management system. So that's really good because now in SQL, in payload all the things, we can go directly to SQLite injection, and we can learn more about how to hack a SQLite database. So it's loading. I, in fact, do not have access to the internet. Okay, so it doesn't matter because I'm going to teach you anyways. It's not that common to find SQLite databases, so I'm more used to hack other type of databases, but still it's really similar concepts. So the first thing that you would want to do is to enumerate what are the tables and what are the columns. How do we do that how do we do that in SQLite? So you can execute this query that will bring you the current, it will bring you the user, the tables, I mean, and that's what we are going to do. It's a union. So let's read it to identify what's going on in here. So in this payload we put 5 because that payload does not exist. As you can see, 5 union select 1 2. Oh no, the first thing that we have to do is to identify how many columns are being called. How can we do that? Well, there are two ways. So I would, for example, put 5, or let's put 1. Okay, we know 1 exists. 1 order by 1. This doesn't cause an error. So let's try with a bigger number. 1 ordered by 10. This causes an error. So we know that the number is between 1 and 10 of columns. If you remember the columns, let's see if I can get the image. The columns are the number, not columns, rows. The rows, well, the query is calling X number of rows. In this case, it's 2, but we want to identify how many, because if you remember our library here, the union queries have to have the same number of columns being called, in this case 2, as the same as the previous query. So we want them to match so we can get more information that we're supposed to. How do we do that? We already know the number is between 1 and 10. So what I would do now is 1 ordered by 5. I put the number in between of them. Okay, so it's not 5 because it is causing an error. So again, how we know that the number is between 1 and 5. So again, let's run it again. 1 ordered by, and since there is no number in between and 1 and 5, I will put 2. So we know that the number is between 2 and 5, because 2 did not cause an error, so our new minimum number is 2. So we're going to do this again. I'm going to put a number that is between 2 and 3, I mean 2 and 5, 1 or order by 3. And 3 causes an error. That means the number of columns being called is between 2 and 3, which means it's 2, because we already know it's 2 doesn't cause an error and 3 causes an error. So yeah, it's 2. The number is 2. What we did here is a manual binary search. Binary search is an algorithm to find a specific number in an ordered list. If you have done programming exercises, you maybe know binary search. We did it manually, and this is the best way to enumerate how many columns are there in a SQL query. So now that we know that there are two columns, we can do an union select, and with that union select, we can get more information from inside the database. So we run it, and we put 1 union select 1 2, and now as you can see, we are getting 1 and 2. So we are executing the data that we want. We remove this part that says name and job, and now we are putting whatever data we want, and this is very powerful because now we can get whatever data from the database. So the next thing to do, the next thing to enumerate, is to know what columns and what table are we in, what table are we getting data from, because remember, we have to specify what the from select from, and also we want to get to know the name of the columns so we can get that specific column. How do we do that? Well, in SQLite, you can do it this way. So you select table name from SQLite master, where type equal table, and table name not like SQLite this, because these are SQLite these are tables that SQLite needs. So we're going to do that. And the reason why I'm putting it like this is because this specific payload works in our example, because as you can see, it uses two columns, because we already said that we need 2 columns, and then it executes the rest. So we're just going to copy paste this because it's a lot, but you can type it. Yeah, so 5 union select table name test from SQLite master, where type equal table, and table name not like SQLite, and this. Yeah, we execute this, and we get that the name of the table name is users. Okay, that's really good. We already know the name of the table. We were able to enumerate it, but now we could do something like 1 union select x y from users. So now we know we almost have our complete query right here. We're almost able to execute whatever command we want, but we don't know what x and y are. We don't know the column names yet. So how do we get that? Well, in in SQLite, you can actually not do that directly. It's harder. You can get the SQL source though from it, which it's very particular. You usually are able to easily get the column names, but SQLite is a different database manager. So yeah, let's just going to copy paste this, or let's type it just to learn more. 1 union select SQL, comma test. Remember, we put SQL, which is the actual table name that we care about, and then from SQLite master, where type is different than meta, and SQL not null, so it doesn't bring us empty sheet, and name equal users, and name being the name of the table that we want to get from. So here we got the source of the that is creating the table, and as you can see, it says the names of the fields, of the rows, columns, I mean. So we can see that there is ID, there is name, there is job, and there is password. And what we care about the most is, of course, name and password. So how do we do that? We run again. Well, we now can just put one union select, and now that we know all of this, by the way, what I would recommend you to do is, as you hack, you have to put everything on your limits. So you know the table is equal to users. We know that the columns being called is 2. We know what else we know. We know the column names equals to, and you can just copy paste output. That is also really good. So yeah, now we can craft our own query as we want. For example, select, if I want to get the password and the name, I will get name, password from users. Yeah, and since we have to put our payload in there, we can just put 1 or whatever number, 1 union select, and yeah, if we copy paste this will work. So yeah, as you can see, we were able to get the password from Alice, her name and her password. There is ways to just put all the data inside of one field. I actually don't know if that's possible in SQLite, but your homework here is find a way to get all the data from all the users. Like maybe one by one you can do it that way, or maybe you can try to concatenate all the names and all the passwords in one single fetch, but you can, that's your homework. So yeah, that's it for today's video, and I hope you like it.